All right, so hi everyone and welcome to the NextGen DevSecOps Hangout. My name is Jonathan Arbel. I'm a developer advocate here at JFrog and I'm super thrilled to be your host today. Now, whether you are here to level up your pipeline security, dive deeper into AI risk, or just get inspired by some top-notch experts, you are in the right place. But before we jump in, please drop a quick message in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from, because we always love to see how global this community is. All right. So before we move forward, let's do some housekeeping. So just a few quick housekeeping notes. Let's talk about the Q&A. Submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature. We will cover as many as we can during this panel. Tech support. I mean, hopefully everything will be fine, but if anything breaks, reach out through the chat and we will help you right away. And recording. Now, this session is being recorded and the replay will be sent to you over the email after the event. But let me tell you why you should stick with us, because we're gonna have a raffle announcement. And that's one more reason to stick around until the end. We are raffling off 5 $100 trade boxes for your team to enjoy at your next hangout on JFrog. Now, how do you enter? Just attend the entire event. That's it. You will be entered automatically. And if you probably ask when we will announce the winners, so right at the end of the event, we will post the winners' names in the chat live and also contact each winner directly via email. So stay tuned. You might be rewarding your team to something sweet. Okay, let's move forward and talk about the agenda today. We have a great agenda with an amazing speakers, me aside. And here's what's coming up over the next 90 minutes. So first of all, we will start with David Cohen, security researcher, who will talk about AI everywhere, how you can leverage the power of AI, but how AI can be a threat as well for your organization. Then we will move to one and only Danny Perizada that will talk about shift happens. Because sometimes when you work with open source packages, something can happen and you should govern it. So we will talk about security at every stage of DevOps. That's with Danny. Next, you don't know where that's been, the hidden risk in AI models, with Bill Manning, Senior Solution Architect at JFrog ML team. And lastly, we will have an open discussion hosted by me, and we will feature David, Danny, and Bill, and we will speak about some interesting subject. All right, let's get into it. Our first speaker is David Cohen, security researcher at JFrog, with a timely session titled AI Everywhere, Fortifying Your Social Supply Chain. And if you have wondered how AI can both secure and threaten your pipeline, David's got the insights you need. David, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Jonathan. So first, I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, sure. I will stop my sharing.
Okay, so first, I'm security researcher at JFrog, and I'm part of the security research team, and we are involved in all of the features that you have in security, and we love it. So let's see. First, as most of you are DevOps, I imagine that you know what is the software development lifecycle, but let's take an example. So when you're building an application, you have first developers using public repository for libraries, packages, and then they are writing their own code using those libraries, and then storing this code into a Git repository. Then you have a CI/CD pipeline that is building your source code to give you artifacts, and this artifact can be jar, Docker images, APK, whatever, but most of the case it's Docker image because it's now very famous and popular and it's very useful. But when you're building application, you can imagine your DevOps, you know that you have all of the configuration, you are adding some layers. So in the case it's the Docker image, you have all the operating system and new components, and you are even cleaning the source code for the useless things that you can clean. So you will clean it, okay? And you also have all of the management of the secrets. And then when you get the Docker image, you will deploy it on a server. But what is the most critical thing that you have in this life cycle? Actually it's the applications that run on servers, because it will be, it's what we call the binary, and it will face the hackers. The hackers will try to destroy it, and you will try to consolidate it. So first, what is a binary? So why is the binary so important? It's because if you have vulnerability, a secret, misconfiguration, or even malicious packages, it will make the application, the binary, like every aspect of that, it will be critical for the binary for you, for the company. Because if you have a backdoor in your application or running on your server, so you have a direct access for hackers into your servers. So it's critical, okay? So whatever is related to the binary is critical. So first, let's think like as an hacker. So a hacker will try to understand your application. The first thing is question that he will ask is, what is made of your application? So your application is made of 80% of third-party libraries. And this is very, good, because you have a lot of features, a lot of integration, you have an amazing application, but you have also known vulnerabilities that we call CVEs that are part of it. And today you have, complex application, you have a lot of integration, you have a lot of libraries, a lot of dependencies. So you can imagine the list of vulnerabilities that you get when you are scanning with SCA tool your binary. And you have also configuration, but you're a DevOps, you have a lot of application to manage. You want, you get a lot of threat to deploy your application, so you don't have a lot of time, right? So we, in our team, we think about the best, things that we can offer you to have the most efficient and secure way to approach vulnerabilities. And we created contextual analysis, which is very, very efficient and very specific to JFrog. So let's deep in a little to understand what it is. So first, contextual analysis is very good in terms of performances. It's eliminating 75% of false positives. So false positive is the vulnerabilities that the CVE that the SCA tool is finding, but finally they are not applicable to your application, okay? So why contextual analysis is very good? So first, we have researchers working in every scanner that goes out so for you. So first, we have a researcher mind looking at the result, doing as much work as possible on each CVE to give you the best quality. And the first thing that we do is monitoring, collecting as much information as we can about the CVE. We are using a lot of sources, NVD, GitHub Security Advisory, vendor advisories, operating system advisories, everything that we have a forum where you have a lot of great information, but it's not, sometimes it's not enough. Why it's not enough? Because you have some CVs where you have very one line, no commit, no information about the vulnerabilities, but it's critical, So what do you do in this case? As a DevOps, it's not, it's taking a lot of time. But we are researchers and we are researching every CV. So we are looking deep into the code to understand what is the CV and what is the commit that fixes it and how to reproduce the vulnerability. When we can reproduce the vulnerability, so we understand well the condition, and we are using, very advanced tool in our research. We know, when you're working only on that, you're expert on that. You have tools for everything, and we love tools. And we have some code flow analysis, data flow analysis. We are checking configuration. Every condition that goes in this very complex condition that we are building. we want every, the best condition as possible. And when we have it, we are writing a scanner. And this scanner will use all of the very advanced tools that we have that are included in X-Ray. So you have the call graph and the data flow graph. And we also check configuration files. That is, configuration file is very important because it's concerning 30% of all of the CVEs. We can eliminate false positive based on configuration, so it's very good. And finally, you get something like that. So you have the list of vulnerabilities, and most of them are not applicable. It's normal. Every vulnerability has this condition, and thanks to our scanner, you're saving a lot of time. But then you have the applicable one, some applicable, you see critical vulnerability that is applicable. And so we didn't stop there. We have a very great scanner, but this scanner is not only there to remove false positive. It's also to give you very precise information, because the scanner is looking for very precise evidences in your code, in the Docker image, in configuration, in every aspect of that. So we have the information, and we want to give you this information because it will help you save you time again, and it will help the developer to fix it, and it's very nice. So an example here, you have the CVE, this CVE that is on braces. It's a package. So here it's very nice. First, on the left, you can see that you have the path where we find the dangerous, the vulnerable function code. Okay, and as you can see, we have the dust.js create template. But wait, it's a CVE on braces. Okay, so why we have the dust.js code? So here we have, I wanted to show you something that is a little more advanced than a simple, direct vulnerability. It's what we call the transitive vulnerability. What does that mean? It means that the braces package is one of the dependencies of your application. The application here is ICS, for those who don't understand it yet. And so braces is used by dust.js, and dust.js is used by your application. And so braces is the vulnerable package here. The CVE is on braces, and the function call is the vulnerable asset that we are looking for. And this, so here you can see that the dust.js is calling the part function of braces. It's not trivial at all. It means that we have a perfect, a very good call graph and data flow analysis with our tools, and we can map everything that happened in your Docker image. Every code that you have on the Docker image, we have a perfect graph for it. And then we can find this kind of thing, and it's very important, and now you have every information that you need. So the vulnerable package is braces, and why your application is vulnerable is because you have the dust.js create template with an object that is not constant. It's very important also. So we have advanced, features that it's very complex scanner that you have. So you have the power of the research into your hand, and it's what we wanted. But it's not only that, you have also smart remediation, because if you have, today, most of the SCA tools give you the simple remediation, upgrade your package to the non-vulnerable version. But this is not always easy to do so. And it can involve, you're fixing one thing, but you don't know what you're breaking, and you don't know any other vulnerabilities that you will add. So instead of that, we are offering you smart remediation that researchers worked on, and it's remediation that will not make upgrade the version, but we make your application safe. Finally, you have a very good coverage with the scanner. We work hard on that. And we have like 80% of coverage for all of the critical and high severity CVEs. And we, our users are very happy of the coverage, and we always are improving that to be, to have the best coverage of that. So just a small example of why our consistent analysis is very good. For example, this CVE was published 2 years ago. It's on Studio, and you if you have a very precise configuration in your sudo file, you can give a low privilege user some sudo edit permission. Then if hacker finds this vulnerability inside your application, you can use it to get the highest privilege permission. And it's very dangerous. So here you see the best scanner is to scan the configuration file, but it's not like evidence. And most of the SCA tool will not do that. And so we are providing very unique solution. And 2 years after this was published, we are, I think, from what I saw, we are maybe the only ones that give you like exact evidence on this vulnerability. And as you can see, this line will not be present in most of the cases. So it's very important to have this kind of scanner because it's a false positive. It's like a false positive in most of the cases. So we will eliminate it. You will save time. It's like a win-win situation for both of us. Okay. So now the binary is made of third-party libraries. Okay, but you have also secrets, and hackers are actively looking for secrets in your application. So you may think it's we have a lot of automation eliminating secrets and everything. But then I will give you a small example and you will understand that it's very important to look at secrets at binary level. So in our team, we find something very crazy. Like we, as part of the community services that we are giving to the community, so we are scanning every, package manager, open source package manager like Docker Hub, NPM, PyPI, everything. And we are using our tool to do so. So we are scanning the Docker images and we find one very good Docker image, a new one from the lead Python maintainer. So, it's just a new version of Python, Docker image with just Python, okay? And then we find one secret inside of a file that is cached, it's a cache file, it's a PYC file inside of the Docker image. So it's very tricky because this file will not be present in the development level, in the Git repository, anywhere, just in the binary. And in the binary, we find that a token, and this token was the token of the lead Python maintainer of the Python repository, and without any expiration date, and with all of the permission as possible. So imagine if a hacker would have found this token before us, so you can inject bad code into the Python repository, do a commit, and you will only with the user of the lead Python maintainer. It's a critical token that we find, and it's one of the examples that we have, but you have a lot of examples on that. Besides that, you have also malicious packages. I don't have time to give you an example, but one of the things that you should keep in mind, JFrog is one of the best companies that is scanning every day packages in every package famous like open source package manager. So now the interesting part it's so you have the SDLC, and now what will be the addition when you will have AI in your application? So first, you have a new repository for pre-trained model, a model that we will download from, for example, Hugging Face. And by the way, we have an integration that is very good with Hugging Face. You can find our scan result on Hugging Face directly, which is very good. But it shows that our approach is very good also. We are eliminating a lot of false positive in Hugging Face, and we are giving you evidence. It's very like the contextual analysis, okay? So first you have a new repository, but then when you have a model file, you have to load it. And to load it, you will need packages, and you have a lot more packages finally, okay? And then you have also, configuration, tokens inside of your application. But all of this is, sometimes added by the build, and you have cleaning by the build and everything. So the binary is always the thing that you should look at, and it's the most critical thing. But then when you have the AI running on your application, you want to plug it with the company's data, which is a good idea, but on the same time, it's very sensitive, very dangerous. And for that, we have the programmable solution. I don't have time to present it, but it's a very good solution. And that's it. So here, finally, you have a lot of threat on your SDLC pipeline. lifecycle and on your supply chain. So finally, if you have good tools to eliminate false positive and to have as much information as needed to take care of every issues that you have on your application, you will be ready for the AI. If you don't have those kind of tools that save you a lot of time, you will have a big issue because you will have less time to check everything, and you will have a lot more issues to check finally. So you need to think about that. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right, David. Thank you very much. First of all, this is a great way to kick things off. Very interesting. And before we move on, I see one question asking in the chat. Let me see it. So what is the difference between reachability analysis and contextual analysis?
It's a very good question. So why it's a good question is because today you have a lot of startups that are working on reachability analysis. So what is reachability analysis? It's finally that you have, when you have a new CVE that is published, you have sometimes you get the commit fix. And when you have the commit fix, you can try to guess what is the function, the vulnerable function inside of the commit. But then you're building a kind of an automatic scanner for it, and you have like you're building the call graph of your code, and you look for a path that is going from your code until the package vulnerable function. So it's a good. I love it, but the contextual analysis is very similar with something else. First, you have most of the CVs as we saw. We have 30% of the libraries that are configuration related. And also, when you say reachability, it means when you can reach the function. But for that, you need the function, right? And sometimes the function is not the very dangerous thing. Sometimes it's only part of the issue. And also, you will get, like, if it's automatic, it means that you don't have all of the aspects of the research, the smart remediation, or you can easily fix it in your code. You have to understand the call graph that will get from those reachability scanners by yourself, and it can be very challenging. Okay. So contextual analysis is adding a layer of understanding. You have the evidence, the clear evidence. You know what the scanner is looking for, and you have additional conditions that you can't generate automatically.
Yeah, I see. So contextual analysis is basically you check all the parameters needed in order to exploit the vulnerability, right?
Right.
Oh, exactly. All right. So it's basically reducing a lot of noise and have this all CVEs fatigue and all that get off on your table, so you can concentrate on what matters.
Right.
All right, that's cool. Okay, so you should see now a survey popping up. So feel free to fill it up, and we will move on. So I'll give you around 3 seconds to fill it. So 1, 2, 3. All right. So we're good now. So now let's talk DevOps security at every stage. Thank you, David. So please welcome Danny Parizada, a senior solution engineer here at JFrog, for his session, Shift Happens, Security at Every Stage of DevOps. Danny will break down how to embed security throughout your software development lifecycle without blocking innovation and velocity. So, Danny, take it from here.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Okay, shift happens. Sometimes in prod, sometimes on a Friday, and sometimes because of a CVE you didn't even know was exploitable. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about what really happens when security meets DevOps. And it's not always pretty. I'll be asking you a few questions along the way. No trick questions, just real ones. Be honest with yourselves. You can drop the answers down in the chat and I'll be watching. My name is Danny Parizada. I'm a senior solution engineer here at JFrog. I usually meet up with prospects or customers, understand challenges, goals, targets, and we help to create some sort of solution that will meet their needs and be supported by the JFrog platform and the tools. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so basically, what is DevSecOps? It's a philosophy that embeds, of course, DevOps with security operations. The idea is not to just have a scanner that is scanning in one location or just tick, yes, I did a scan on one of the stages and go on, because it's insufficient. You scan with code, you leave the binary open. You scan with binary, you leave the code open. So we want to create some sort of philosophy that integrates security in all the DevOps infinity loop. This actually gets more valuable when software developments and security are using the same tool, because now you can control it, you can secure it, and this is where you might want to make sure also that there's no friction. Security cannot slow down development. Development cannot risk security. So how do we actually create something that is developer experience focused, but also very secure? I want to ask you a question. If I told you a binary made it into production without approval, would you know when it happened, who pushed it, and how it got through? Here's the first hint. Assuming a lot of people in this webinar know this date, they maybe are a bit traumatized by this date. But if you remember, and there's also a clue here, CVE and the number was log4j or log4shell that created a lot of issues for organizations, probably even your organization. So a security officer, just to the sake of the example, is looking and he sees that log4shell is there in one of the containers running in production. He calls up his most senior software engineer. Let's call this guy Jeff. So meet Jeff. He knows how to fix it, and he just wants a quick fix and to send it into production. It's late. He wants to watch a movie with his wife. So he fixes it and he sends it into production. And what happens is shift. Shift happens. A lot of errors because it didn't go through the right way of deploying, the right way of maturing, or the right way of getting something into production. Today, we want to understand that trusted releases make it into production. This is being enforced by regulations. This is being recommended by frameworks like Salsa by Google. You want to make sure that there is a proper process in place that promotes full releases with you being able to see everything. So based on promotion gates, you can now promote something from dev to QA based on certain prerequisites. Promote something QA to prod if you have other maturity levels that are based on internal checks, external checks, maybe even validations of some sort, but also lock in all the evidence and all the attestation. So whenever you need to provide it to an auditor or just understand where it came from, this can actually be valuable. So in our example, now Jeff cannot push anything to production because it needs to go through all the builds, all the automation, collect all the evidence that everything is working, and this issue cannot happen. Question number 2. Do you find out about risky packages before or after they're already inside of your system? Open source software is safe, right? Right, guys? So this is Jeff again. Jeff wants to install a Django package. It's a library by Python, and it's very familiar, very safe. But what happens, he accidentally types "00", probably didn't have his morning coffee. He installs it, and what happens is shift. Shift happens. All your files are logged because Django with "00" is a malicious package, and he just ran malicious code on his IDE. We want to make sure this doesn't happen. So what we need to do in order to adopt a DevSecOps approach is to shift lefter or shift more left. This means to actually curate what is coming into the system, understand what kind of risks are potential, what kind of packages I don't want in. And this has to be based also on developers being able to go in and look at the different packages and look at the risks that they're bringing in and to assess. It also has to have a full audit capability, meaning all the packages that were brought in that got into the system that I'm using in my applications, but also all the packages that someone tried to bring in and they were not allowed in, they were blocked, what policy they violated. But then also we want to make sure again that the friction is as low as possible We don't want a developer that can freely install anything, but we don't want a developer that keeps on being blocked because I do need to maintain my time to market. So we also need a waiver procedure in place. So a developer can actually see why he didn't get upon block, why he didn't get his packages, understand what kind of policy violations he created, and ask for a waiver based on data that he sees from the catalog, based on data that he now knows. And maybe this can actually go through better developer experience. And of course, to avoid malicious packages, like Jeff just introduced to the organization. Third question. How often do your teams waste time chasing high severity CVEs that turn out to be irrelevant? I'll let you answer in the chat. And of course, this correlates with what David just explained with understanding the context, because sometimes CVSS scores can be misleading. So Jeff can see two CVEs, okay? You can see one critical CVE and one high CVE. Of course, he goes to fix the critical CVE. This is more critical. This is my priority to fix that. And suddenly he gets data breached by the high CVE. Because severity doesn't always mean risk. Shift happens. As David said before, sometimes you do need a CVE can mean that it can be exploitable, but you do need to understand the context behind it. Now, because of the fact that a lot of organizations, they remediate their critical CVEs, a lot of attacks actually go from high CVEs because these are less attended. So we do want a better prioritization mechanism, not just based on severity of what could happen, but also, can it happen? What's the likelihood? Can it actually be breached through that? So besides understanding the prioritization with severity, we can use contextual analysis tools to actually identify that, to eliminate the risk of something actually happening by remediating the applicable ones. And one thing that David's team did is actually look at Docker Hub images, and they scanned 200 of the most downloaded images, and they found out that 78% of the common CVEs there are not exploitable. So potentially, you have almost 80% of your remediations of your CVEs that you're fixing for nothing. You can have a better prioritization, like Jeff needs. Last question. How often do security alerts feel like they show up a little too late? So sometimes they ruin your weekends, right? Jeff, again, writing his code, enjoying his life, loves his work, committing his code, and he gets ready for the weekend. He has a great wedding to attend to, and now he gets a message from security that he needs to stop and to fix his vulnerability. Shift happens. Shift happens because he didn't have the visibility to actually understand what he was bringing into the system. We want the developers to code with confidence, to commit without any regret. So once they get the clarity, but also keeping their focus because they want to stay in the IDE, they can commit better quality code. That will result in less CVEs later on, in more confidence. And think about the fact that maybe you have 5, 10, 15 security experts in the team. But if you have 300, 500, 600 developers, that each one of them has now the capability to integrate security results within their IDE, it's like they're a security engineer working with the initiative. And of course, this reduces a lot of friction and allows developers to go to any wedding they want over the weekend. You are probably asking yourself, okay, where can I get all this in one platform? And this is where I usually go into the to the platform software security chain slide or solution, because this is the approach, having everything in one place. So artifact management to manage all your releases, all your binaries, all your packages with a trusted mechanism like we saw before with a release lifecycle management, tools that cover from code to production, all the security. And this is actually a different kind of shift. So it's not a shift happens, but it's a shift in your mindset. It's a shift that goes to the left a shift to code, to curation, to IDE, a shift that goes right into runtime, into advanced security, a shift that regulators already saw and they're starting to implement, like DORA, NIS2, CRA, that are talking about that, or even shift into an enterprise mindset, because our biggest customers are using DevSecOps approaches that are covered and supported this practice with our platform. Jeff is now pleased. He's working with a company that uses JFrog, and he's ready, because shift happens. That's it for me today. I hope this gave you an actual practical look into how to reduce security noise, catch real risk earlier, and build with confidence. If you're exploring on how to build a stronger DevSecOps into your organization or want to cut down on friction, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect, to share more, or to help you get started with the right approach for your team. Thanks, team.
All right. Amazing, Danny. First of all, I love Jeff. Jeff looks like a cool guy. So again, thank you, Danny. That was packed with real-world tips that every engineering team should definitely hear. And I see some questions in the chat, so let's bring it up. The first one is, how do you get devs to care about security without slowing them down? And as a developer, I can relate to that question, because I mean, developers like to run fast.
Right. So this question probably came from a developer or for someone who cares about development speed. So in any terms of a developer not having the visibility, the friction will be there, because it will be surprised by different CVEs or things that it needs to remediate. By bringing in tools like curation that ensure that if he uses those specific packages, they have already been approved, they are compliant with the system, he can have much more confidence and much more velocity to actually develop faster, or even understand what security brings him in, remediate them in time, so his remediation or his fixes will take a couple of minutes rather than finding them out later, and they will take a couple of hours, weeks, day. So that's actually the opposite. With embedding security capabilities, you're actually releasing faster, and the motivation will be that they're part of the security posture there.
Right, because sometimes when developer has this illusion that he can run freely with no barriers, but then, as you said, he gets it on production, and then he need to say goodbye to his partners, then he need to go back to the office and fix what happened. I totally agree with you on that one. Okay, the next question is, how can I trust that what's in production was not tampered with? Interesting.
Great. That's a great question. So as you recall, we presented the release lifecycle management motion, and this is exactly where the DevOps best practice comes into place. So if I lock a release up with something that we call a release bundle, but basically it's a cryptographic locked file that represents the release, I can know that no one can change it because it's untampered with. No one can suddenly push something, no one can change the code. So if even the smallest of changes, like a typo, needs to be done, this is a full build, a full go through the promotion gates. And since you know that this is the only cycle that you allow to trust an image, this is the only cycle that can be based on permissions, but basically nothing can surprise you.
I see. So everything is sealed and secure. All right. Okay, the last question is, this is a good one. What if we accidentally push something without approval?
Yeah.
I mean, shift happens.
Shift happens. And this is where you need a strong platform that actually integrates all the groups, all the permissions with the right kind of granular application set. So basically with the promotions themselves, you can make sure that that all the promotions are being done based on evidence being existent or not, based on permissions that are allowed or not. So no one can just go and push something into production. We also offer more tools that we haven't spoke about today that you saw in the last slide, like runtime security, that actually verifies where has this been taken from, verifies that this was taken from a production-ready repository, and verifies that it's actually the same file from what's taken from production that is running in the actual runtime environment.
Right, so you have like the integrity approval. All right. Okay, before we move on, let's pause for a second for a quick survey. I will give you around 5 seconds to fill in this survey. So let's do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you again, Danny. And all right, next up, let's zoom in on the dark side of AI models and how they can quietly introduce you to some risks. So please welcome Bill Manning, Senior Solution Architect for JFrog ML, with his talk, You Don't Know Where That's Been, the Hidden Risk in AI Models. Bill, stage is yours.
Hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for introducing me. As stated, I'm Bill Manning. I'm the Senior Solution Architect for the ML team at JFrog. I'm located in our Sunnyvale office. I've been with JFrog for about 8 years now. And today we're going to be discussing, you know, where that's been. And the idea behind this is that a lot of companies out there are using foundation models that they get from third-party sources, and protecting yourself is one of the most important things. So when Gartner did a study that said, you know, that 90% of all new applications by 2027 will have some sort of ML component behind it. Here at JFrog, we always say that every company is a software company, and now every company is becoming an ML company also. And by saying that, the thing is that there's a lot of things that are happening in the ML world that are very akin to what was happening in the software development world many years ago. Things like vulnerabilities and transit dependencies and all this great stuff that we know about. And so what we've decided to do at JFrog is that, you know, we want to talk to our customers. And one of the things we figured out is, and a lot of people understand this, is that models are a critical asset. Models, you know, have high economic value, right? They give some companies the competitive edge that they need to promote things within their company. You know, they can also make business critical decision making within that, right? Understanding how sales processes and things are, or looking at how customer support or services handling things, right? The amount of data and being able to build, you know, cohesive models can really impact an organization for the better to find out deficits and things. It's also now become very also integrated into enterprises, and music contains a lot of sensitive data. So companies are becoming more and more aware of making sure that the things that they're building and using have some sort of safeguards around it. And also, too, it is exploding. It is just like the DevOps field in the early days. ML ops and just ML development in general is very greenfield. Lots of companies are coming in, lots of different solutions, and the growth is insane. It's actually quite incredible. And saying that, a lot of companies are in this idea and mindset that, you know, DevOps and ML ops should be handled differently. We've had this discussion before, and we've had it as part of this forum too. You know, you have your standard SDLC, which everybody knows, right? Being able to go from your raw materials, those third-party transit dependencies, and your raw code to some sort of finished product. Well, the thing is that when that happens, you have you have operations people that get involved, you have, you know, security people. That's why it's now DevSecOps. And the thing is, in this world, they're all trying to figure out how to navigate bringing the best information, the best things they've learned from SDLC, right, from their DevOps and DevSecOps experience into the ML world. And when a lot of people look at it, that seems very foreign. It looks very different than the SDLC, but truly it isn't. You still have the idea of raw materials coming in one way, right? You have the data, you have, you know, maybe a foundation model, things like that. And at the end, you have some sort of service or some sort of thing that's, you know, that you get from your ML output. But the thing is that there's a lot of similarities between DevOps and ML ops, you know, such as, you know, a build, right? Which is one of the core things that we do really well at JFrog with our platform. And we've adopted that, and we'll talk about that a little bit down the road in my discussion. But the thing is that we're really trying to help customers bridge that gap into saying, you know what, all those best things that you've learned from DevOps can be applied to ML ops. And it all starts with the software supply chain security, just as we've discussed before. Like in some of the earlier talks here, software supply chain is the same in the MLOps world, just different. The thing is that when you look at it, you know, in software supply chain, you have your code and you have API, you know, APIs and libraries and stuff, right? Open source packages, first party code, commercial software, configuration files, right? I can go on and on. You guys have seen this. And the thing is that 85 to 90% all software is made up from these solutions, right? From these third-party things that you bring into your organization. If you've been a fan of JFrog for a long time or a customer, you know that we're a CNA, and we're very much about this, as discussed earlier, as part of this forum. And the thing is that we've taken the same mentality and applied it towards the MLOps work. When you look at the supply chain that you have in standard software development, and you look at the supply chain, you have things like a model registry. In this case, it could be open-face models like Hugging Face or Llama, or if you're working with NVIDIA, their NIMS images that you can utilize, right? You have the dependencies in Python. Almost all MLOps code, ML code is written in Python. So you have all those third-party transit dependencies, once again, that we can maintain and manage in the JFrog platform. You have fine tuning and training and being able to store all that information, or making sure that your infrastructure you're using to do live testing or testing around these models is correct. You have inference, right? When you go to test, you want to make sure that you have enough horsepower. You want to make sure that there's nothing nefarious that could be happening in the models that you're making when you're doing this. On top of that, you need a way to maintain and monitor the model, right? So there's third-party tools, or you can use our JFrog ML product, which actually has things like drift monitoring built into the platform itself. And then also, too, being able to maintain and manage the lifecycle. One of the major problems we see in the world with ML, and it's so silly, and it always makes me laugh, that still one of the fundamentals that a lot of companies are having a hard time with is the idea of versioning. How do you safely version these models so it's accessible by as many people as possible, and you always know you're utilizing the correct model? And the thing is that when you look at the supply chain, it's very similar to the DevOps world, right? You have your raw input on one side, your data ingestion and all that, all the way to the end, where you're going ahead and you have some sort of model that you're utilizing and you're maintaining and you're monitoring and all that. And the thing is that when you think about it, when we talk to our customer base, we said, you know what, you should actually think about it as not siloed, but as part of the same application. Because in most cases, you have an application that's powered by ML. Even if it's a standalone, ML app, you might have something that's accessing it via API or prompt or however you're using ML. And when I say ML, I'm thinking generally, right? Whether it's a LLM or there's a data model, whatever it is, that's what I'm talking about. So when we start talking about this, we've heard of the scary number slides. That when we talk about ML, that everybody knows, and we know about any sort of supply chain, right? The attacks are increasing. It's not getting any better. But we, as a solution and, at JFrog are looking at ways to prevent this for most corporations. And the thing is, like I said, as this threat increases, and now the greenfield threat that we see is out there, of course, ML, right? The thing is that as these land grabs for technology go, this is another area where people are going ahead and the attacks are increasing. And what can you do to prevent it? Of course, you can schedule some time with the JFrog team, and we can do it in depth on that. But let's talk about some of the things around security and ML. So why is it vulnerable, right? There's many different attack vectors in this case, right? So a lot of it is just lack low security awareness. It's really funny is that more companies that I talk to, it's really amazing how many safeguards are not in place, ensuring at various aspects in the ML development itself. It's it's becoming more of an awareness by people. The thing is that ML attack vectors can also be very highly compromised, right? There's a lot of ways and a lot of safeguards that are supposed to be in place. And in a lot of cases, a lot of the code isn't being implemented, or it's not being thought of in that respect, the way, code is from standard, like software building. And now it's starting to become more and more of a credible threat, and people are really paying attention to it. And the other thing too is there's not a tremendous amount of tools right now that are focusing on this. At JFrog, we have a lot of ML security around this, from deep level model scanning, or if there's a Hugging Face, and we'll talk about that before and also in a minute. But the thing is that how do you have the right tools, and where is the location of those tools is important in the development process. If you talk about our security solution, things like curation, where it's like a firewall, all the way down to if you're deploying, say, a Kubernetes service, we have runtime. And of course, the constant security integration in between all those various steps. And also at the same time, right now, there's a lot of learning curves around ML and ML ops. people are sussing out the different avenues in which they could do it and what's better. Our JFrog ML product, one of the things we did is we talked to them and we found out like, what is the 95% of things that ML engineers need? And we built a product around that. And there's plenty of webinars that are based on that. I'm part of that team, so I'm excited. But the idea is that how do you strengthen ML and how do you make it so that you have those safeguards in place, that you make sure everything is safe, secure, and compliant? And when we talk about ML security, supply chain attacks, it's insane, right? There's things like compromised public data sets, where it might actually have in the data sets that you use, say for training or whatnot, there might be something nefarious or it's compromised there. Model poisoning. These are credible threats. ML dependencies. Any of the libraries you might utilize for this, and something like Python and others. This is just a way to protect those. Prompt injection, right? Manipulating the model's behavior. This is a big thing too. How do you protect yourself? Model extraction. Oh my God. The thing is that a lot of people, when it comes to IP and they start thinking about IP, this actually comes up, and also this comes up in a lot of cases, especially when you look at things like the EU regulations that are going on, especially around privacy and protection, besides just efficacy. And then lastly is like data leakage, making sure that, doing some sort of drift monitoring and things like that, but also making sure that you don't accidentally expose, any potential privacy data, things like that. Denial of services attacks are on the rise in terms of models with open APIs when people leave them open by accident. And then on top of that, some of these, the thing is that there's so many different tools out there, kind of like the way DevOps and DevSecOps were. And there's lots of problems with interoperability and potential security leakage between those products. So we might have something for fine tuning, one for monitoring, one for hosting, and somewhere in there actually might compromise you more. And then the thing is that when we talk about these model attacks, and we look at them, it's very obvious in some respects. You have a public model, you have a responsible developer on the right, irresponsible developer on the left. A typical responsible developer will pull from a secure system, right? That might have come from something they built internally or whatever. They request a model, they get a legitimate model back. Bad one will probably pull something maybe directly from Hugging Face. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've talked about it before. But the thing is that they pull a malicious model. They don't have any sort of safeguards in place to say this is a malicious model, or they don't take the time and effort to actually go and look at Hugging Face, do an in-depth into the model, and take a look at any potential security threats. They risk the exposure of pulling down those models, doing all the work they're doing, getting what they want. And inside, there might be some of these hacks, right? That actually might expose the data publicly, or might actually take it and send the information somewhere, and they check it back into some sort of repository server they have somewhere. I'm not saying our product, but maybe some other one. And when they do it, and say the person says, oh, I see there's a new version of the model available, suddenly that tainted model gets delivered into the actual responsible developer's environment, and it's horrible, right? The thing is that a lot of companies treat this very openly, and that's a problem. We're trying to change the way they work on this by using the JFrog platform to ensure safety, security, compliance, accessibility, all the things that plague most companies today around ML development. And the thing is that even when you're presented with that level of information, there's still a level of education that still has to happen with those developers. Here's an example of Hugging Face. Now, we'll talk about, we have a really amazing relationship with Hugging Face and the team over there. This should change now that we're involved in it. But, the thing is that here's an example. This actual model is a highly suspect model, right? This is actually something that contains a malicious package. Nobody paid attention to it because it still has over 3 million downloads. All right, think about that. How do you do this? And when we talk about the JFrog platform, that's one of the awareness factors, right? Being able to write rules, policies, and regulations through the entire thing using JFrog security to ensure you don't have these accidental downloads of models that contain malicious packages that could damage not only you financially, but your reputation as an organization. And the thing is that, when you look at these models, there's 2.1 million models right now inside of Hugging Face. And this is like an open field. You have Llama, you have OpenAI, you name it, right? There's all these open source models. And we're doing an amazing job. As stated before, right, we are a CNA at JFrog, and we're doing our best to make sure that the world is safe and compliant when it comes to things like malicious models. So in this case, we actually went ahead and scanned those, put them into our package catalog, which which is one of our most awesome products. I love this. I love package catalog. But the thing is that using that with our curation allows you to have those safeguards in place so that with those 2.1 million models that are out there in open source land that you could possibly pull down, we can help make sure the organization isn't tainted by that. And that partnership is really amazing. I couldn't be happier with the fact that if you go into Hugging Face now, do a search into any of the models there, and you look, and if there is one that happens to have a security issue, you'll see that we, as JFrog, are now one of the providers that provides security information to make sure that you're safe and compliant. But even better, if you proxy those third-party transit dependencies, in this case, Hugging Face, through Artifactory, you can store it, have a localized copy, so this way it's easy to work with, but also by making sure that it doesn't contain anything that could potentially harm your organization. And the curated dependencies allow you to have a centralized control of all those third-party packages. It also allows you to go ahead and automate that using this for third-party packages with preemptive rules that can stop things before they begin. I always say it's like having a bouncer at the front door of a club that knows who to let in and who not, the club being your organization. And then also on top of that, it's a really good way save money, by attacking issues before they start. It's a way to make it super simple and easy. It also integrates into things like Copilot, which we have an amazing relationship with GitHub, where you can actually query and find out if models or packages can be utilized with the organization based on rules and policies that you're unifying. And the thing is that at the end of it too, one of the things you want to make sure is that with any of these models, you know where they're coming from. And the next part we're going to talk about is regulatory. And if you heard my talks before, I've given lots of talks on software bill of materials. So it's only logical that I talk about machine learning bill of materials. This is going to become part of the compliance aspect around ML. Being able to understand every piece, component, and how, what, where, and why a model was put together. So it requires traceability, compliance and governance, security, reproducibility, all the things you would get from a software bill of materials is now being applied to MLBOM. And the reason why I bring this up is besides being able to go ahead and make sure that you're safe, secure, and compliant, and understanding the threats and all the things around it when it comes to ML, also having the compliance factor around bill of materials is things, if you're in the EU, things like DORA, right? So ways to mitigate the risk and understanding, things around third-party transit, governance, basically making sure that information is stored correctly, operational resilience. And the thing is, even with the EU AI Act, ensuring that there's safe, ethical, and fundamental rights, the thing is reducing the amount of risk. And that's where our platform actually excels, by meeting those policies. And we can actually help you ensure that you are compliant. Same thing in the US, being able to do the same thing around the Secure AI Act, right? So being able to go in there also and make sure that everything you use is safe, secure, compliant, traceable, reproducible, and everything else. So saying that, when you look at the JFrog platform in terms of MLOps, it really is an end-to-end security solution, right? Those open source components can be vetted out to make sure that you're not pulling in any sort of foundation models, third-party transit dependencies, being able to store everything in Artifactory for reproducibility, whether it's the Python, libraries you use, Docker images, Helm charts, one of the 34 package types around that we have, including all the things around ML development. Being able to create builds, so being able to actually treat a actual ML model as a build. So this way you're not only the model itself, but all the dependencies and everything inclusive around that. And then being able to have a platform that uses all of that, which is our JFrog ML product, where you can do all your operational work around model development and also have all the compliance and security features around that. So truly, when it comes down to it, making sure that the things that you're using, whether it's the dependencies, whether it's the foundation-based models, whether where you're hooking up and deploying it, making sure that when you're putting it together and hosting it maybe as a service, that it's compliant, and then having all the regulatory components behind it to make sure you have traceability, accessibility, and all those other things that you need to ensure that your organization is in its proper form, by protecting the organization itself, by having all those pieces in place. So that's my talk. If you'd like to learn more, of course, we could always discuss that. Thank you. Jonathan. Can you hear me okay? There we go.
Yeah, I'm right here. Incredible, Bill. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was
Thank
very
you.
okay. So far we had 3 talks, 3 unique angles from security to DevOps to machine learning. And hey, Bill, I have a quick question. Like,
Sure.
so if I get it right, we should work with models kind of the same way like we work with open source packages, when we're creating and operating these packages.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing is that, one of the problems is also, let's talk about model size, right? So first of all, model size can be anywhere from gigabytes to terabytes, when people are bringing it in. So having a solution in which you could store that and have so that you have 1,000 developers and your first developer brings it down, you have 999 other developers, instead of downloading a terabyte image, machine learning image from an external source, they can just download it from, say, Artifactory. But on top of that, we need to also treat it in the same way that we would treat those third-party suspect. We should be suspicious of any model that we're bringing in to base our stuff off of, right? We should treat it with the same sort of skepticism that we would treat any other package.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I can definitely relate to that. So thank you very much, Bill. Keep your camera open. And before we move on, just at this point, you will get a survey. Feel free to fill it up like in the previous sessions. So let me give you like 5 seconds to fill it up. And all right. So okay, David, Danny, feel free to open up your cameras. And I think that, guys, with no further ado, let's kick off our open panel discussion with David, Danny, and Bill. So basically, no slides, no filter, just honest answers. Okay. So that's all. And if you haven't already submit your questions, feel free to submit it now. We are watching the Q&A panel, and if we will not be able to answer it right away, we will try to get it in the chat. Okay, so let's jump in, right? So let me ask, let's start with some questions. And Danny, I want to start with you, okay? I will put you on stage. So just beyond binary SCA and curation, what are the other types of analysis that, that protection that we need to have in our modern pipelines?
Right, that's a good question. As you recall, we talked about the DevSecOps approach, which is not just about one scanning point, but it's also not just about one scanning tool. A mature, secure software development lifecycle will incorporate more capabilities. For example, SAST, so static application scanning for code, for example. Secret scanning, right? Things can go wrong if you forget a secret, a token, if it's validated, etc. So you want to make sure that you're validating or looking at the existence of code of your secrets in code, but also in binary. And then other things that are not CVEs, like misconfigurations, misuse of applications, anything that basically can get someone, a bad actor in, we want to avoid. And also not just about shifting left, but we talked about shifting right too, with tools like runtime security to make sure that everything is running securely on an end-to-end. And this is how you complete the DevOps loop, the DevSecOps loop.
I see. Okay. Another question for you is, how do you reduce friction between developers and security teams without, lowering the standards or getting a slower velocity and so on?
Yeah. So that's something that comes up a lot. I've been hearing from my customers a lot about DevX, ROIs about developer experience and how to improve that. Essentially, there's always going to be friction between security and development. It's very hard. And that was basically what the presentation that I did was about. So we need to get a way to get the developers hooked or encouraged to use security capabilities, because that's the end goal for organizations, right? If the developers would be more responsible, will commit more secure code. That's for everyone's benefit. So if we ensure that they can see why they should use the security tools, because they can plan better, because they can resolve the issues faster, because they know that they don't need to redo the code, or because they feel part of something bigger than just coding, then we did our job well done.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you. All right, the next question is, David, I think you will be the right person to take that. JFrog integration on Hugging Face. What brings JFrog versus other vendor, also providing the same kind of the same service? So what brings JFrog versus other vendor to also provide the results on Hugging Face?
Okay, so it's a very good question. Thanks, Jonathan. So first, we have an integration with JFrog, with Hugging Face. We have our result of the scanning of the model on the website of Hugging Face. Okay, so the difference with the other vendors is basically we are doing the same as contextual analysis, but for model. So when we are scanning a model, we want something very precise. We want to know, we want to eliminate false positive also, because you have a lot of false positives today. And we want to have, as much evidence as possible for the customer. So the user of X-ray will get all of the evidence inside the model to understand if it's really dangerous or not. So it will be very, helpful for DevOps, I think. And it's very good. We have a lot of format management and everything. So we have a solution that is very complete, and we wanted to make benefit the community of Hugging Face.
Yeah, definitely. So it's basically JFrog together collaborating with the Hugging Face for the community, right? So we can kind of consolidate, because we understand that they need to have all these results at a very early stage of their development when they select their specific model, for example. Although they can also do that from the catalog, but usually they are in Hugging Face, and it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And Bill, I want to understand something. How has customers responded to our approach for ML when security is involved?
Well, it's funny is because of what David brought up, right? A lot of the things that we provide, especially when it comes to, they've seen what we've done in terms of standard DevOps security, right? Like all the things that Danny brought up. I love showing off our integrations into things like Copilot, where we can also, query to find out if I'm a developer to say, hey, is this available? Can I use this? Well, all the things that come with our product, be able to do it in a very interactive way. But also the thing is that they see the value of being able to address things sooner with products like curation, right? They see the firewall aspect. I will say the shift left mentality of being able to be in the IDE and have basically all the accumulated knowledge that they need to do to fix these issues right in their hands. And get it detected and delineate through with things like Danny brought up, like when we look at, how to, contextually, make sure that an issue is relevant, like David said, like make sure, that increases it. Now with ML and the Hugging Face integration, being able to be like, wow, I can actually preemptively stop this. Being able to go ahead as a developer and say, can I use this model and does it adhere to my company's policies through curation? And if not, give me an alternative that I can maybe utilize behind this. It's been amazing. Like they're like, okay, you're bringing modern day standards to this field that's a little Wild West right now.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, right.
and adding that security layer and using terminology they're already used to. So it's almost like we're easing them into this idea, especially a lot of companies are like, we have to have ML. Like it has to be there. Like I had a customer recently, they have no reason to have it, but they're like, we need it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we can help you.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically what you say that every company now that using ML and developing an AI application, they need to instill some trust, right, and security around these models, because as you said, it's kind of a jungle at the moment, and there's lots of many models that pops up, and you need to understand what's going on with these models. So yeah, I can definitely understand why it is important to have this.
And take what they've learned from what they did for DevOps and DevSecOps and give them an easy way to have that same approach into MLOps, right? Being able to take the things they've learned and apply them, to this, so they can feel like they're still in control. They still have like a regulation that they can follow, slip line this into, and at the same time, give them a sense of security that they can, okay, let's, we can start experimenting with ML development, or we could take what we've had and improve it in terms of security, compliance, and also reusability, traceability, all the things that most companies are versioning. God, it's killing me. We still have, the versioning is a problem. And like, well, here, we'll help you version. Like, off the checklist, it's like,
Yeah, as we said, it's just another package, right?
absolutely,
Right.
just another package. That's
Yeah.
it. Just
Okay, Bill, thank you. I see some more questions. So, David, I'll ask you this one. So, when a new model is uploaded to Hugging Face, how long does it typically takes for the JFrog to scan results and to have these results actually become available?
So yeah, we have a very quick scanning, which is very, game changer a little.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's okay to brag. It's okay to brag.
It's very good. We did a lot of optimization, and we want to bring the result as fast as possible, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to have a scanning process if you have the result a month after. So we have 1 day, like in like a day, you have you get the result on Hugging Face. So
Oh, that's pretty
it's
fast.
quick.
that's amazing, man. I'm sorry, I got to interject there, but that's freaking, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, having this information so quick, and it's very important. Oh, all right. Oh, Danny, the next one is definitely for you. So let me see. All right. So if you had to pick just one shift left initiative, what's the highest ROI thing teams should focus on? All right. I think that we lost Danny, and it's okay. This is a live session, and that's what happened in live sessions. We will move on. So, hey, Bill, where do you see all this, MLOps in 1 year? I mean, from today. I know it's a big question.
Oh yeah. So a year from now, like we're just going to see further adoption. I think we're going to see more streamlining. I think we're also going to see more tools coming in the market. I mean, you know what? When there's a new field, when there's it's been around for a while. This isn't new. Let's face it, right? I mean, it's just in the recent years this has been happening. But like all technologies, everybody's going to try to capitalize on it, right? Everybody's going to try to optimize on it and make money and figure it out. So I think we're going to see a huge expansion in the next year in terms of tool sets and things like that. But then we're going to see what always happens, right? I think we're going to see a reduction and a more focusing. I think everybody's trying to do everything all at once in some cases. But like I said, I see the adoption rate going up. I also see companies also becoming more hesitant, as opposed to as gung ho as they are right now, trying to get everything done. I think we're going to also see companies be like, okay, you know what? Let's have a little bit more streamlining behind it. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna become like everything else, big, and then it's gonna retract and focus.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I definitely agree. We have a boom of tools now, and
Right.
all organizations need to check whether they take best of breeds or they have one consolidated solution for everything. It's this era that we live now. We need to make some hard decisions. All right, Danny, I
Yes.
see that you got back to us. You are safe, and I said this is a issue when you would do a live session. Danny, the next
Maybe he's
question
a
I want
bad
to ask you.
actor.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I want to ask you something. And if you had to pick just one shift left initiative, what's the highest ROI thing teams should focus on?
Yeah. So I assume this is coming from a concern that, you need to allocate budget, and if it's not supported or sponsored, it's really hard to kind of show the value. So if you believe in shift left and you say, okay, I've seen this JFrog presentation and know that shifting left with JFrog will enable a lot of faster development, you need to understand where is the money being wasted now. What I can tell you from discussing with customers, a lot of customers understand that they need to vet in packages because they know about the dangers that we spoke about today. Malicious packages from any registry, bringing in something that will be revoked later on or needed to be worked on. These are wasting time. Developer time equals money. The scale is huge. Once you onboard more and more developers and you don't think about ways to optimize their time, this is where the money lays. So if you already have a need for security and you understand the benefits and you're looking for enabling something that will quickly show an ROI, I would start with JFrog Curation.
I see. So
And just
basically,
quickly, just to kind of go on top of that too, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One of the things too is that I totally agree with the curation aspect, because a lot of companies, the thing is that some companies still have an antiquated method of where a developer needs to request something. It needs to be security vetted. It needs to go through security, hands holding. And the problem with that is the delays, right? It actually costs more money for companies to do it that way than implementing something like curation. By automating that process, have accountability and auditability. Something what I talk to customers and encourage them all the time. Like that's actually one of the things. And I was like, why do you have an antiquated system that can get backed up and you're just delaying?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Bill. I totally agree. And okay, this one is a big one. Danny, are you ready? What does a mature DevSecOps setups looks like in 2025?
So basically, there's no I'm fully safe. There are always dangers lurking here and there, but you can reduce the risk dramatically if you adopt the DevSecOps that we talked about today.
Yeah.
Now, the question is how to do it. You can go with the best of each applications we talked before about, like secret scanners and SAST and runtime, but integration there is hard. And if it fails, again, you're just open or looking for yourself, looking for how to connect the dots. Where did the breach come from?
Yeah.
The biggest companies, the biggest enterprises that we have as customers already understood that this should be consolidated. And what better place to put it where with all your metadata, with all your artifacts in the same location. Once you can connect the dots very easily, this is where you feel that even if something happens, you can react fast. So it's about securing at every level and about understanding and controlling it. Because if you don't have visibility, you're not able to control it.
Yeah, right. I totally agree. You need to govern it in order to control it, right? Bill, you want to say something?
No, that's perfect. Like
right.
no, I mean, no, that's actually one of the biggest factors, right? But in some companies, like I said, especially around security, there needs to be a little bit of controlling the governance and letting go a little bit and trusting the process as opposed to what some companies do.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I see that there are no more questions, so I think that's a wrap. Guys, thank you very much. I want to say a huge thanks to David, Danny, Bill, and to all of you for joining us today. And now I think it's the moment you've been waiting for. So let's do some drums, and we will now hear our 5 treat box raffle winners. Check the chat right now for the names. And we will also, as said before, we'll also reach out to each winner via email after the event. All right. And if you want to try JFrog right away, we will send a link in the chat so you can get on board today. Thank you again. And until next time, stay secure, keep building, and see you at the next Hangout. This is Jonathan, together with my fellow frogs. Peace out.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.